Hello, hello, everyone. In this sixth interview of this series, we are excited to introduce you to Julia Shtern, an artist with a rich background in both theater design and visual arts. So she began in theater design and then worked as a painter, exploring the canvas mostly in acrylics and mixed media. However, in 2016, she stumbled upon the world of upcycled materials, and this discovery reshaped her artistic practice, aligning with a deep commitment to environmental responsibility. So, during this episode, Julia will share her insights and experiences in the realm of sustainable art and reveal how she has harnessed the power of upcycled materials to create meaningful, environmental conscious work of art. So, let's dive in. So, thank you, Julia. Just really want to thank you for being here, and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me about your time with the i3C group and your practice in specific. So, to start, I just really want to talk about your practice. I know you started as a theater designer. So, can you tell me how that influenced your approach to materials and working with different mediums?
Sure, and thank you for inviting me to speak to you today. Um,
Thank you.
Actually, even before I've got to back up a little bit in that journey. Even before becoming a theater designer, I was a painter in acrylics and mixed media, and from that, my practice evolved into theater design, set and costume design, and then I was doing those things in parallel. Now, both of those really, I guess, propelled me into working with upcycled materials the way that I do now.
Yeah.
Because as a mixed media artist, I was experimenting with a variety of materials already. And then as a theater designer, specifically for scenic design, you often have to think on your feet. Oh, sorry about that. I guess.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. So sometimes things come up very quickly in the rehearsal process that you need to respond to. And also just the nature of the medium itself. It's a make-believe kind of environment where you make one material look like another material all the time. So that teaches you to think outside the box in terms of what you use to what you use to represent for what. So both of those, I think, gave me a good head start on.
Yeah, and I also imagine that you really know all the technical aspects of the materials if you have to make something look like something that it's not, and that probably helped you with creating these sculptures, I imagine.
Well, not necessarily, because theater is a bit of a ridiculous medium in the way that you have to, sometimes you have to think very quickly and you just use whatever you see around you. There was, in fact, a kind of a theater joke in the community for what we do for theater, where you give a list of 10 ridiculous things, 9 of which were true, and one that wasn't, that you've done in the process of your work. And then people rarely are able to guess which one is actually not true, because they're all equally ridiculous. For example, once I fixed a maple leaf, a real maple leaf with a coat hanger. True story. As ridiculous as that sounds. Exactly.
So can you also share how did you transition to working with upcycled materials, and what drove you to this more ecological or environmental concern approach?
Well, I've been concerned about the state of our environment for many years. Have collaborated with various nonprofits that address the environmental issues. I've implemented many environmentally conscious practice in my home and my daily life. So it has been something that I engaged with deeply as a person for a variety of reasons, especially the materials that are being used. In both painting and theater, there isn't really much that you can do in terms of the materials, in terms of them being
Yeah.
ecologically safe. Costume design is a bit easier in that sense because often you're able to use garments and fabrics that have already been previously used. In fact, I
Yeah.
prefer to do that as a costume designer whenever I'm able to. But coming directly to work in the medium of upcycled materials was a bit of an accident. I was moving long distance, as I tend to do quite a lot in my life for whatever reason, it just happens. And for a while, I was separated from my regular art making materials because they were traveling by land via container. So while I was waiting for the
Okay.
materials and wanting to make art and thinking perhaps I could obtain some new materials, but it makes no sense because I'm in transit right now. So I looked around my home, saw my recycling bin that was very full of really colorful material. I thought, the colors are nice. Why don't I try and use that? And basically, a long story short, by the time my materials reached me, I was no longer interested in using them. So I've been practicing with the upcycled materials pretty much ever since.
So can you tell us a bit about your series of work called Magical Zoo? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure, that was the series that was the product of discovering that array of color in the recycling bin. The series is of sculptures and wall sculptures of animals. And the medium is mostly food packaging, some fabric leftovers, some plastic bits and pieces, some foil. And the language of the series is magical realism. I cannot really explain why it has taken that route. It just naturally flown into that and has been staying in that visual language pretty much since the very first piece that I made in the series. Now the work uses no paint, and the only ingredient that is added to the upcycled material itself is a transparent
Okay. How do you gather this material?
it just naturally occurs in my home. It's amazing how much,
Okay.
especially packaging material, enters a home alongside something else. Pretty much
Yeah.
any item of groceries that you buy comes packaged in something. So I
Yeah.
put that packaging aside and then just use that. Same with fabrics, same with foil. It's just something that naturally occurs in the alongside my daily activities.
Yeah. Yeah. So your work has quite a big message infused on it. So how do you balance the need for your creative expression and creating work that has a message?
Well, the message occurs naturally, partly because of the materials that I use and partly because of the subject matter. The subject matter of the series is animals, and when I portray them, quite a bit of research goes into it as well in terms of what the animals are like, what's their biology, what's their behavior, what's their habitat, what's their conservation status. So the research that I make actually goes alongside the artwork, and when the artwork is displayed, there's also a text alongside it speaking about the
Okay.
animal. So the artistic expression is well, what remains, the actual making of the sculpture, the shape and the color.
Yeah, you do a lot of research before creating the work, and then you upcycle materials that you have in your home and create the sculptures.
Yes.
Okay. So can we now speak a bit about the collective? How did you join the i3C collective?
Well, it was actually Adriana when she created the collective. she, having met me elsewhere, she knew that this was the focus of my work, and it, of course, fit the mandate of the collective very much. So she invited me to join, and I'm really grateful for the invitation because it's very nice to be working alongside like-minded artists.
Yeah. Do you feel that your practice has shifted or improved, or do you have any event where you saw that your art has had a bigger impact?
Well, as a part of the collective, of course, it has a bigger impact just because when our voices are combined, we together reach a wider audience than we would have individually.
So art change your role, or you just continue what you were doing before?
Well, I am continuing what I'm doing with the one, I guess, small, wouldn't really say that it's changed per se, but the collective is based in Massachusetts. So because of their location, when I make work that is going to be exhibited with the collective, I research animals that are local to them.
Okay.
Just so that when the work is presented in that area, so that it's more engaging for the audience.
Yeah. So, and what is your opinion of an artist joining a collective? Would you advise an artist to join a collective?
Oh, yes, absolutely. If the work resonates with the mandate of the collective and you personally resonate with the people in the collective, of course, by all means, it's a good idea to join.
Have you been part of any of the talks or workshops of the collective? Are you an artist, or are you a part of any of the different areas of the collective itself, the marketing and the exhibiting, any of that?
I wish I could participate in the activities of the collective a bit more, but because we're so removed geographically, while I can be a part of their conversations on Zoom, there isn't really much that I can contribute for local events. Having said that, I did give a talk.
How did the talk go? Do you felt that it had a impact on the audience?
Well, I hope so. At the end of the talk, we did get a nice conversation with the attendees. This was, of course, on Zoom because, again, I'm not there in person. I'm quite far from Cambridge. And the talk became a part of the Cambridge Art Association's archive. So I imagine they do make it available to other audiences as well.
Um, so what advice would you give to young artists?
What I would say to young artists is, first of all, continue practicing your art and practice it in the way that is authentic to you. Let it flow whichever way you feel that it flows out of you. Because sometimes artists feel that they need to fit a particular criteria with their work and try to make their work fit someone else's understanding of how their work should be. I would advise against that. What would work out better is find places where the type of art that you make is appreciated, and also don't be discouraged when your art is not accepted into exhibitions or competitions, because as artists, we experience rejection many times. It's really quite constant in the practice when we submit our art to a call and then for whatever reason it does not get accepted. And no matter how nicely the rejection letter is worded, it takes time to learn how to process them. And the biggest piece of advice that I could give to younger artists is understand that when that happens, it's not about you and it's not even about your work. Especially when you submit your work to a group exhibition or any call for art that involves showing not only your work but also someone else's alongside it. You don't actually know what other work has been submitted, and you don't know how well your work would fit into that space. So learning to know that just because your work has not been selected is not a comment on its quality, and it's definitely not a comment on you as a person. What it really is that for whatever reason, the piece that you submitted does not flow well with the other selection that has been made. Perhaps the jury was looking for works that were in the red and yellow, and yours is blue and green. And no matter how much they loved it, they just cannot make it fit that space. Yeah. So it's just as simple as that. It's not about you. So submit your work elsewhere and tailor the calls that you enter to the work that you make, and not the other way around.
Yeah, I do agree with all that you said, but the last part, because I also received a lot of submissions from artists, and sometimes I see that they didn't tailor the work for the submission, and even if I really enjoyed the work they did, I cannot accept them because I have other artists that, because I have slots for other artists, if I see the other artists did take the time to tailor all the submissions to the call that I made, I will have to get to have that artist and not the one that didn't tailor the work.
What I mean by that is instead of first reading the call and then making the work fit that, even though it's not authentic to you, find calls that already resonate with the work that you make.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
So the calls are already a good match to what your practice is.
Yeah, because otherwise you're not gonna be accepted if it's not completely in tone with the call. If it's something else, if you have environmental art and you are applying for a political art or open call, you're just not gonna get in. It's just because it's not nothing to do with your art. It has to do with the call itself.
And it took me a ridiculously long time to figure that out.
Yeah, they don't teach that in art schools.
No, they don't teach a lot of things in art school. They certainly don't teach how much time is spent doing that and not your art. And I wish that was at least mentioned, if not taught. But
yeah, do agree with that. That was my last question. So thank you, Julia, for being here and share your experience. I'm sure all the listeners will really appreciate it and appreciate your insights.
Thank you again.